Hello. In this video I want to talk about building front-end applications without utilizing things like React or Angular or Vue.js, Astro, you name it. And don't get me wrong, it's not a one-fits-all solution. My point is that those frameworks and libraries are built for and by organizations that build product on a scale that you cannot imagine. For example, React is built for Facebook. Angular is used and built for Google's internal tools. A lot of those things are not really necessary that we have access to inside of Angular and React, which means they are highly complex compared to something like just vanilla JavaScript. And for most applications, you are not necessarily bound to use single page applications, and you are, on the other hand, not necessarily bound to React or Angular. That's why I think when you're having a small project with a small scope, it's quite easy to give up and use a framework like this in the library because you've seen it from so many places. But for a small application, it might be the best to just rely on some very basic tooling. If it's a project that can be done by one person, there's very little need for a very complex application and framework. Let me just show you something very interesting. This one is the application that I've built for somebody. It's completely without actually utilizing React or Angular or anything like this. If you want to see it, I can make me a bit smaller here. Yes, cool. And those data is fetched from Firebase. So if I'm now going to click on novo, which is the Portuguese phrase for new, because this application is for a Portuguese customer, and now I say test, then I have a loading indicator, which is preventing the user from creating race conditions. Then you can see the one here has, the test one has been created in here. If I now search for test, then the loading indicator shows up. And this is all done without utilizing any third-party library like like React or Angular. The only thing that I really include is the Firebase SDK. And there's one thing to mention, I am using the Firebase Compat library. I'm not using the module-based right now because it's, for me, much easier to get by with the vanilla JavaScript old style. Although, I have to say, this one is deprecated, so I'm going to switch in a few, very soon. Let me phrase it like this. And you can now see if I'm going to remove one, I even have got this sheet. This is built with JavaScript as well. We can take a look at the code right now, just in a second. And if I want to really delete this, then I click on yes, see. And I even have the snack bar, you know. So there are a lot of cool features that one might think will need a very complex wrapper or something like React, Angular, Vue.js. But you actually do not need this. This is my point I want to make. You can see which one thing that boosts performance actually is by utilizing just HTML, because there is no rendering that happens by JavaScript in this case, except for this one. Like the loading indicator is always in the DOM, but those elements are created and appended to the DOM via JavaScript, so they are not in the DOM at start time. But everything else, the snack bar as well, is just hidden and can change the, yes, this one, and can change the background color. Visibility shown, or what is it, visible? Then you can see this is the default snack bar. Okay, let's just take a look at the code, just for you to see how I built this. One thing I'm not really happy about is the decision between actually rendering everything from JavaScript, creating a DOM from JavaScript up, performance decisions. Right now you can see I have the pages folder and everything in here is a HTML file. And this is how routing works as well. So I'm not having like a React router or Angular router, which is under the hood, just re-rendering the whole virtual DOM inside of your application. This is really just the HTML. So let's see product list, for example. You can see I'm implementing the style in here. Then I'm adding a login guard as a separate type JavaScript, because if I'm not logged in, I'm doing this within, can I create a private window? then you see I will get redirected to the login HTML, which is part of the login, authentication card. And even though when I click everywhere here, except for the card, because this is not including it, just for demo cases, I will get redirected to the login page. Okay, so this is basically then I even just for test cases implemented something like I18 Next in a very minimalistic way, just to have some translations, and so that I can create all the text that I see inside of the page in here. And yeah, then you see I prefix all of my UI functionality with UI, and this is basically it. And let's take a look at what happens when I'm prompting to delete. Then I'm creating a UI build conform. This one is doing the same thing as JSX. So JSX is the technology to write HTML inside of JavaScript, and this gets passed into statements like this. So it's just document create element. It's nothing more what React is doing with JSX. And inside of here I'm passing the child, which is just the inner HTML, and again the child, which is seen. So if I click on exclude, then you see this. Okay, then this is what's called right now. Then you see sheet.render. Then I can sorry, then I can sorry, then I can pass in the element that should be rendered, and then I say show to actually get this visible, because otherwise it's hidden. So let's just see, now the sheet isn't visible, but if I now click here, then it's hidden, then it's shown, and it's actually drawing right now. So it's going to 30% of the sheet, which is all inside of the sheet.js. And yeah, when I then click on seeing, which happens on click UI delete, let's just see what UI delete is doing. You can see UI loading.start, which is the complete loading indicator, will show up. Then the project is removed. The sheet is collapsed. The sheet is hidden after the collapse finished, and then I'm stopping the UI loading, and I'm even showing up the snack bar. So those are just some examples. Let's just take a look at the source code. The JavaScript file, we have the sheet, which is, yeah, a little bit code. You can take a look at yourself. It's a public repository. And then we have the snack bar as well, which is just a single object which holds the state of is open, timeout, and so on and so forth. The key drawback of this is it's not really testable. So the only thing, or the only way you can actually test this is by firing up the page and clicking through. But as I mentioned, sometimes it's not the best way to abstract everything and follow dramatically the clean code principles. Sometimes it's best to use a pragmatic approach and see what changes, and just use the fastest way to get something done, because in the end that's what the customer is paying for. That's my time. So if the customer is happy with this and it's working and it's future proof, then there's literally no way or no argument that states that this is a bad thing. And this is what I wanted to show you within this video. Just some cool stuff I've built recently. If you like this video, then just write a comment for me. Would be really nice to see what you think about it. And I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.